Hello, we'll do the lesson Oliver asked for more. So, this lesson is written without too much advanced vocabulary, so we can just read it almost. So, Oliver is Oliver Twist. The full name of Oliver in the title is Oliver Twist. And Oliver Twist is a story by the Victorian author Charles Dickens. So Oliver asks for more. So we'll read the story. As I said, it's a very uh, it's written in very deceptively simple language. So there won't be much to explain. So we'll just read the story. Among other buildings in a town in England, there was a house for poor people who had no money and nowhere to live. This was called the workhouse. Oliver Twist was born in the workhouse. His mother, a young woman, lay ill in bed. A doctor and an old woman stood by her side. So Oliver's mother had just given birth to him, and beside her there was a doctor and an old woman who was called a midwife. She lifted her head from the pillow. So Oliver's mother lifts her head from the pillow and she says, "Let me see the child and die," she said. "Oh, you mustn't talk about dying yet," said the doctor. So the doctor tries to offer her some comfort, and the old woman says, "No, dear," said the old woman, "you're too young to die." The young woman shook her head, and so the young woman disagrees and held out her hand towards the child. So she wants to see her child, and then the doctor put the child in her arms. She pressed her cold white lips to its face and then fell back. So she kisses her child, and then she falls back on the pillow. "She is dead," said the doctor. "Yes, poor dear," said the old woman, and she took the child away from its dead mother. "Poor dear." So she sympathizes with the mom. "She was a good looking girl," said the doctor as he put on his hat and glove. "And uh, where did she come from?" "She was brought here last night," said the old woman. "She was lying in the street." So Oliver's mother was lying in the street. They brought her to this hospital, to the workhouse, and she had given birth, and then she had died. She had walked a long way, and her shoes had uh, had holes in them. So she had walked for such a long distance that her shoes were falling apart. They were torn. Nobody knows where she came from or where she was going to. So she is an anonymous young girl, and she has walked a long way, and then somebody finds her on the street and they bring her to the hospital. She gives birth, and that's it. The doctor raised the dead woman's left hand. The usual story. "I see that she has no ring on her finger." The doctor examines her left hand, and there's no ring. So the woman had been made pregnant by somebody, and she had walked away from that place. But once she reached this place, she was too weak to carry on, so she just collapsed in the street. So she was unmarried, and she had been made pregnant, and she had given birth. There was no ring on her finger. "Good night," said the doctor to the old woman. He went home to his dinner. The old woman sat down on a chair in front of the fire and began to dress the baby. The midwife, the old woman, dresses the baby in front of the fire. She dressed him in very old clothes used for babies who were born in the workhouse. So in that workhouse, many babies had been born. So the clothes very old, they've been used many times. So she dresses this newborn infant in those old clothes. The child was an orphan. An orphan is one who is without parents, born into a world which had no love or pity for him. So the child was born into a house where no one was there to love it or no one to take pity on it and care for it. No one was able to discover who the baby's father was. So they make inquiries, but they can't find out who the baby's father was or what his mother's name was. Mr. Bumble, an important officer in the town, invented a name for the baby. He chose the name Oliver Twist. So Mr. Bumble is one of the bearers of office in the town council. So he invents a name for the new baby. He calls the baby Oliver Twist. We name the new babies here in the order from A to Z. So as the babies come in, the first baby will be named from A, from the letter A, Arthur, like that, Andrew. And the second baby which comes into the workhouse will be named with the letter B, Brian. So like that, they name the babies from A to Z. They explain when people ask, I named the last one Swabble. This one is Twist. So the previous baby had been named with an S. So this baby is called Twist. The next one will be Unwin. So STU. At the age of 9, Oliver was a pale, thin child. He and the other workhouse boys never had enough warm clothes or food. So in the workhouse, they deprived the children of food or warm clothes. So it's very cheap, cold in the workhouse, and they don't have warm clothes, and they're not fed properly. So Oliver was a pale, thin child. They were given only 3 meals of thin soup every day. So the soup they were given 3 times a day was diluted. They were given 3 meals of thin soup every day. On Sundays, they had a small piece of bread. They were fed in a big hall. A large pot stood at one end of the room, and the soup was served by the master. So the master is probably the person who is the manager of the workhouse. So there was a large pot full of this thin soup, and the children used to line up and get their share of the soup. Each boy had one small bowl of soup and no more. So they were only allowed one small bowl. The bowls never needed washing because the boys cleaned them with their spoons until they shone. So the boys used to drink up every last drop of that soup, and they used to clean the bowls with their spoons so that the bowls used to shine after the boys had had their meals from them. One day, Oliver and his friends decided that one boy would walk up to the master after supper and ask for more soup. So the boys became so hungry one day that they decided that one of them would walk up to the master and ask for more soup. Oliver was chosen. The boy who would ask the master was Oliver, and this was very dangerous because the master would become very angry and no one knew what he would do. In the evenings, the boy sat down at the tables. The, the master stood by the pot and the soup was served. The soup disappeared quickly. The boys whispered and made signs to Oliver. So they signaled to Oliver to go and ask for more. He stood up from the table and went to the master with his bowl and spoon in his hands. Please, sir, he said, I want some more. The master was a fat, healthy man, but he was very pale. So the master used to eat well. He was a fat, healthy man, but he was very pale. He looked with surprise at the small boy. What? Said the master at last. in in a quiet voice. What? Please, sir, repeated Oliver. I want some more. The master hit Oliver with the spoon, then seized him and cried for help. So the master becomes very angry, hits Oliver with the spoon, then grabbed hold of him and cried for help. Bumble rushed into the room and the master told him what Oliver had said. Uh, he asked for more. Bumble cried, I cannot believe it. One day they will hang the boy. So according to Mr. Bumble, asking for more soup when he was hungry was a crime that had never been committed before. And if Oliver continued in this way, he would be hung. He'd become an adult and he'd become a criminal and he would be hung. So they took Oliver away and shut him in a dark room. The next morning, a notice appeared on the workhouse gate. £5 were offered to anybody who would take Oliver Twist. So they advertised that they had a boy who needed to be taken care of, and if anybody took Oliver Twist off their hands, or the person who would take Oliver Twist would be given £5. Oliver was a prisoner in that cold dark room for a whole week. Every morning he was taken outside to walk, and Mr. Bumble beat him with a stick. Then he was taken into the large hall where the boys had their soup. Mr. Bumble beat him in front of everybody. He cried all day. So Mr. Bumble makes an example of Oliver. He beats Oliver. When night came, he tried to sleep, but he was cold, lonely, and frightened. So as a 9-year-old boy who's been treated like this, and he cannot sleep, and he's cold, lonely, and frightened. But one day, outside the high workhouse gate, Mr. Bumble met Mr. Sowerberry. Mr. Sowerberry was a tall, thin man who wore black clothes, and he took Oliver Twist off Mr. Bumble's hands, and he got £5. So that is the story of Oliver asked for more. Thank you.